Hey everybody, Hunter, Fisher, Trapper, Trader, Guide, Scout, and Interpreter, and just a country cook, Steve Hall, here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with pretty Miss Sheila running that camera. Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Today we're going to do oxtail. We're going to cook it up, and we're going to do it in the smoker. But don't let that scare you, because we're not going to smoke it. I'm going to explain in a little bit, but come on over here, because I got some canola oil that I'm heating up in my frying pan. I got some oxtail over here, some seasoned flour, and let's get started. Well, we have to start out with oxtail. When you buy these packages, you get big ones, medium-sized ones, and they go clear down to the end of the little tail on this. And oxtail is just beef tail. That's all it is. But we're going to put it in the seasoned flour, and here's what I did. I put a couple of cups of flour in here, and then I put in a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, sounds like a lot, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder. I threw in a little bit of Cajun seasoning, and I put in about 3 heaping tablespoons of paprika. So we're going to start out by rolling this in here, shaking off the excess. We just want that lightly coated. Put it in our pan here. I'm going to have to turn that back on because I turned it off long enough to do the start of the show. There we go. Now she's going again. And I'm going to brown these pieces up, which will give me a nice base in the frying pan here. I got to tell you right up front, I might as well admit to this. I have never cooked oxtail in my life. Never ate it, but I did a lot of research, and I've seen a lot of stuff that I would do, and I've seen a lot of stuff that I wouldn't do. Then, of course, me, I got to do a little twist on stuff. I'm going to take this, once it's all browned up and everything, and I'm going to put it in my Dutch oven over here. And believe it or not, I ran out on the back deck and I checked. This fits perfect in my smoker. So instead of heating the kitchen up for 6, 7, 8 hours, I'm going to put it in my smoker, but I'm not going to run any smoke pellets through it. I'm just going to turn it on like 225, 250, something like that, and I'm going to let it cook for a long time in there, about 6 hours maybe, 8 hours, low and slow, to make this oxtail nice and tender. That's enough for now. And then I'm going to take out some vegetables and put in there and add it into there, some beef broth and a bunch of stuff. And then I'm going to let it go for another 2 or 3 hours until it's just delicious. But right now, let's get this browned up. How am I doing on my first batch here, Sheila? Of oxtail. Looks fantastic. Getting it browned up real nice here. We're going to put these off to the side and put our next batch in. Now you should always sear the outside of something you're going to cook for a long time. But if you've got a lot of slow cooker recipes at the house, sear your meat before you put it in the slow cooker. It turns out much better. Trust me on that. All right. We don't need much. I'm just looking for a little crust on here. Turn my heat back up again. There we go. Look at this little guy. They wanted to make sure you got clear to the very end of his little tail, huh? Man, oh man. Look at some of them little teeny pieces. But I'm cooking them all because they came in the package. I paid for them at about, I think it was about $5.69 a pound. They're fairly expensive. You can almost go up $1 and get a ribeye, but I want to try this oxtail because I'm going to do my own twist on this stuff. And I just think it'll turn out absolutely melt in your mouth delicious. Because I've cooked a lot of stuff like Boston butt and stuff like that I put a roast or whatever in the oven, and me and Sheila take off for the day, and I just crank it way down, safe to about 225 degrees and leave it in there for about 8 hours. And when you walk in the house, you go, oh yeah, that's in the oven. I forgot about it, but I can smell it. It's delicious. So instead of smelling up the whole house with cooking or all that kind of stuff or heating the house up, I won't need my little gloves no more. We're going to be able to put it out in my little smoker outside because that just has a little element in the bottom. I can punch in I'm going to put just a little more oil down the bottom of here. Just a hair. And it's got a little element in the bottom of that smoker. Punch it in digitally. Put it on like 6 hours. The little beeper will go off when it's done. Then I'll go out and put some veggies in. But I'm going to put some veggies in here too in just a minute. And it should be cheaper to run that little smoker because it's going to be filled with this big pot. It'll only kick on every now and then. Don't have to heat up the whole house. Don't have to warm up the oven. And I get a chance to use my little smoker outside again. But I'm not going to run smoke pellets through it. Now, there's times for smoking. Ribs, Boston butt. Even we did a smoked meatloaf recipe here the other day where we ran it out there. And we wanted that smoke pouring over everything. But I don't want to smoke this. I want the vegetables and the beef broth and the seasoning and the spices. And we'll get to all that in a minute. And I don't want any smoke on it. So, you know, maybe the next batch I'll try it. But right now, let me get the rest of this browned up and be right back with you. Well, I took the rest of my oxtail out, brown, and in here I put a little bit of onions, some garlic, some green peppers, some celery. Let me turn that down just a little bit. I'm going to soften these up in here a little bit because we kind of made a roux as we were frying that stuff in that oil with that flour. It made a nice little roux in the bottom. And right now, to give it something to work with so it don't get too far out, I'm going to put in a little bit of Shotgun Red's touch of sweet wine, about a half a cup. Now, you can use any red wine at all. You can use a white wine. You can use no wine at all. But I'm putting that in there just because it smells so fabulous. And I'm going to cook this just for a minute or two until all that alcohol evaporates out of here. Then we're going to start adding some spices and stuff to it. And I've got another bowl over here with all kinds of bigger onions, bigger peppers, carrots, and even some potatoes over here. But they're not going in this Dutch oven until about 6 hours into the cooking process. Then we're going to add them because I want that to kind of stretch out that oxtail meal. Plus, I don't want them to just be cooked to death for like 8 hours in that cooker. But this is kind of like, almost like a little broth that we're putting together for this oxtail. I don't even know what to call it yet. Been thinking about that. What would it be, like an oxtail stew done in the slow cooker? Is that what it would be?
Well, chicken oxtail.
How about oxtail over rice or something? Over white rice. We'll figure out a title for it, and you'll see it before you even see this. So, Oxtail surprise. That's a good idea, Sheila. And then plus, I also got some tomatoes. Now, I'm going to put a few of these in here right now. Not too many. But I'm also going to save these. And I just barely nipped the little ends off of these. And these are grape tomatoes. And I'm going to leave them whole. I'm not cutting them up. I'm going to leave them whole because I want them to be almost like a stewed tomato when you get your meal as well. But I'll put a couple of them in there. Now, I normally buy Rotels, but this was on sale up at Kroger, and it's mild diced green chilies and tomatoes. I'm going to dump a can of that in, liquid and all, because we're going to want a lot of liquid to cover this up when we put it in the cooker. So we're going to go ahead and put them diced tomatoes and chilies in there. And we might as well do it right now, is most of these recipes for oxtail are Jamaican recipes. I'm not going quite that, Jamaican on it here, but I am putting Scotch Bonnet pepper sauce in here. Now, most people put in a Scotch Bonnet pepper, cook it until it's all done, then they pull the pepper out. But I love this sauce. Now, okay, here's a little flour where I was using that before. I'm going to pour just about enough. Believe it or not, it's flavorful. It's not hot, hot, hot like you'd think. Scotch Bonnet peppers, but almost just like a regular tablespoon-sized spoon. And drizzle a little of that in there. But I love the flavor of this sauce. I've used it in several different recipes, including some jerk chicken that we did. And golly, it really tastes just wonderful. Now it's time for our herbs. Now you can put all kinds of stuff in here. Basil, thyme, all kinds of goodies. So I'm down at the store, and I look, and here's this herbs blended. And in this here, let me read some of this stuff off here. Thyme, parsley, it's got basil, all kinds of stuff. Let's see here. But anyway, I'm going to use just that. So you can use about a half a teaspoon of all your favorite herbs, thyme, whatever, basil, oregano. Oh, it smells fabulous. You should smell that. I know it's store-bought. I know you guys, some of you out there want to use fresh herbs and chop it all up and all that. Hey, go ahead and do that if that's what you like for your recipe. But this just smells so fantastic that I'm going with that right there. Now we're going to just simmer this just for about 30 seconds here, enough to kind of get that incorporated. And then I'm going to turn this off. Wait. I got to do one little thing here. Just so I can say Worcestershire sauce. Just about a teaspoon or so, because it helps marinate the meat, believe it or not. It's a meat tenderizer as well as something flavorful. But don't go big on it because it'll get away on you. I just like it barely in there. So I'd say a teaspoon, maybe a heaping teaspoon. You can't heap that, can you? Okay, we're going to turn this off. Where's my little off button there? And now is when it's going to really start to happen here. Let me get my Dutch oven up here, and we're going to start building this. Okay, I'm going to build this in layers. This is what I would do. I'm just kind of making up my own recipe as I go along. I want to kind of have a little base for that to sit on. So I'm going to put some of them peppers in there. Remember, there's going to be a lot more vegetables going in this later on. This is just to cook that meat in. Get that laying in the bottom. Just kind of a layer. Then, where's my little tongers? Here they are. Then I'm going to lay this meat down in here. I bought 2 little packages of oxtail. I was kind of hoping they would fit in my Dutch oven here, and it's looking pretty good because I'm going to put the bigger pieces on the bottom. Then I'm going to kind of sprinkle the little pieces on the top. Just go ahead and dump juice and all in there. Aha. Sheila, if you'll take that little bowl for me, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, I'm going to put some more of this on top. There we are. Aha. Perfect. Now the next step is totally up to you. You can use vegetable broth, you can use chicken broth, but I just think that oxtail, because it comes from the cow, should be beef broth. So that's what I'm going to do. Now that I got these veggies in here, look at that. Don't that look just absolutely gorgeous? And we're going to bring this right up to almost the top of this meat. Because that's got so much meat in there, it only takes like 1 box. In fact, I'm just going to put 1 box, and this is, what is it? Something per cup. It's got 2, it says 2 pounds, whatever. You know, they're all the same size in the store there, but that's beef broth. And I'm going to kind of push some of these little guys off down into there. And it's going to kind of make some of its own juice. But we are ready to go. Looky there. Now as it cooks, if it reduces, and I'm going to keep the lid on it, but as it reduces, we can add more beef broth. But this baby is ready to go into our smoker, and I couldn't be more thrilled with the outlook of this. This looks fantastic. I can almost eat it the way it is, but I know it's all raw. So let's cook it for about 6 hours, and then we'll take a peek. Let's go to the smoker. Well, all right, here's an update. We finished this dish last night, and it was getting kind of late, about 6, 7 o'clock, and I wanted to cook for about 8 or 10 hours with this. So we put this in the refrigerator overnight, and thank goodness we did, because as we cleaned off the counter and moved a few of these little boxes of beef broth, Sheila said, "What's this stuff?" I said, "That's stuff that I forgot to put in the recipe." First of all, it's 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes in there. And it was kind of like, whoops, I forgot to put that in there. 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. That's right. Not a tablespoon, just a teaspoon in there of brown sugar. Now, it's not going to make the dish sweet. It's just going to wake all the flavors up so much. And then, most importantly, a little 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. Now, if you look at a lot of oxtail recipes on YouTube, you'll see that people use tomato paste when they're sauteing their vegetables and stuff. And it's just a thick mess. It takes a while to dissolve, and what happens when it dissolves? It turns into tomato sauce anyway. This is Hunt's tomato sauce, 8 ounces. And some people even use ketchup in their recipes, and I just hate to resort to a bottle of ketchup when you got all this wonderful ingredients. So with the tomato sauce and the brown sugar, you kind of got that ketchup consistency anyway. And before I put the lid on this now, I'm going to stir a little bit here, kind of mix up a little bit what I got. Most of this stuff is kind of cold because it sat in the refrigerator all night. So I'll probably run my smoker up to 275 for the first hour, then back it down to 2 1/4 or 250. I'll tell you all those times. And I kind of edited this front portion already last night, and I noticed I kind of went by real quick with this Jamaican Scotch Bonnet pepper sauce. So I wanted to kind of give you a little close-up of that bottle. Now, you can find this in the international section at the grocery store, and it's Jamaican Scotch Bonnet pepper sauce. And that's what you want to put in there. And here's one other little tip. Some people make their own Scotch Bonnet pepper sauce. They take Scotch Bonnet peppers, blend them in a blender, and put some vinegar in it. Then after it's all blended up smooth, they run it through a strainer to get most of the seeds and stuff out, and then they put it in the refrigerator, and it lasts for like 6 months. So they make their own Scotch Bonnet pepper sauce. Now that we got all the ingredients in there that we found on the counter once we moved a few things, let's take this to the smoker. It's early in the morning, so we got all day to cook it. And that may be what we're going to do to make it just fall off the bone tender. Now, finally, it's time to head to the smoker. Well, welcome to a beautiful day here in Nashville, Tennessee. And look what I have tucked away in my beautiful little master-built smoker. And this 8-quart, I think it's an 8-quart Dutch oven, just barely fits in there. I've got the lid off. I got it set on 275 for the first hour or so. Then I'm going to kind of watch it. I'm going to drop it down to like 225 or 250. I may or may not put the lid on for portions of the cooking. I'll tell you about that as we go along. But let's button this thing up and get cooking our wonderful oxtail stew in our smoker. And I'm not going to put any smoke to this. It's just going to use the heating element to turn this little box into a baby oven out here on the back deck. Let's get started. Now, before I pull this lid off of here, I'll tell you what we did. I took it out and put it in my little smoker. Didn't put no smoke to it, but I put it on 275 degrees for about an hour to get everything real hot. Then I turned it down to 225 for 4 hours. Then I actually brought it in here and turned the little burner on, and I've already peeked in there. So, looky here. Man, oh man, does this look delicious or what? And here's the thing. This meat is already fall off the bone tender. So I don't want to cook it any longer because I don't just want shredded meat in there. I want to be able to pull a little bit off of them bones when we serve it up and eat it. So I'm going to take this meat out of here, or most of it. If I miss a couple little teeny pieces or something, that's fine. That can cook up. Well, look at that. A piece of that just fell off just trying to spoon it up over there. Wow. I really wish I had smell-o-vision so you could smell this, because it's wonderful. Can you smell that over there, Sheila?
Mm-hmm. Smells good.
Absolutely terrific. So I'm going to pull this out of here. And that's, I think, got one little chunk there. It's okay if we get a few little vegetables with it. That doesn't matter, because they're already done. But now we want to throw some, look at that. There's a chunk of bone right there, just cleaned right off just by ladling it up out of there. So, well, I'm going to leave the rest of that little shredded meat down in there. This will be good. Now it's time for some bigger veggies, because everything else was real small, diced up to make our broth, so to speak. Some little red russet potatoes. Now you can get the little red russets, and you can also get them little golds. They're in the store right alongside of them. I got about 4 or 5 little taters here. Some nice big chunks of red and green bell pepper. Some bigger chunks of onion. And now we're getting down in here to our carrots. Got a couple of 3 stalks of carrots, and I cut them at an angle to kind of give them a little more surface area so they'd cook quicker without being so chunky. And all right, but I just wanted to show you what we were putting in there. So let's dump the rest of it in. Wow, that looks terrific. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in our smoker at 225 for about 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to check the veggies as we go until they get just exactly the crunchness or the softness and texture that I want. Then we're going to bring it back in. I'm going to take this meat and put it in the refrigerator because I don't want it to sit here at room temperature. But it'll only take a minute once we dump it back into 225 degree, whatever this beautiful thing is, concoction stew. It'll only take a little while to heat it back up. In fact, right now I got this setting on this burner on low medium so that it keeps it hot so we can get it right back in the cooker. So let's get it back in our smoker at 225. Oh man, that looks so good. Fall off the bone already. The big veggies look terrific. At 225 for about 2 to 3 hours. We're going to check it at 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, and we'll tell you when we took it off. So let's take it out and put it back on the smoker. Well, it's back inside from my little master-built smoker. It's been about 5 hours. I'll explain that in a second. Now, you can do this same recipe in your oven. I was just having fun in my little smoker outside because it fit in there so perfect, and I just punched it up. I'll tell you the temperatures if you'll come over here. Let's take a look. Oh, it looks fantastic. I already took a peek. You are going to love what is in this pot right here. And by the way, I did sneak in them little grape tomatoes that I forgot to put in when I put in the big veggies. So they're in there too. But look at this. This stuff is just soft enough and nice enough. I kind of sampled it. Now it's time to put the rest of this meat back in here. And honey, I think we got us a pot full of food. We're going to have to call the neighbors and have them come over here and get into some of this. I'm going to shove this down in here. I'm going to turn my little burner on, my little unit up here for just a second. And I'm just going to heat this back up for about 5 minutes and we'll be right back with you. Well, it's been 3 minutes and that's all I can stand. That meat is hot enough for me. Looky here. Let me go ahead and plate this up. Goodness gracious. I thought earlier when I put those big chunks in there initially that they would be too big. Man, they're perfect. What do you think? Isn't that gorgeous?
Pretty.
Wow, that meat is it's almost, look at here, I can wiggle this little bone here. Look at that. It just falls right out of the other. It was sitting in the middle of that big chunk of meat. Now there it is. Looks like a little dinosaur bone or something. But it's oxtail. Get a few more veggies in there. Maybe a little spud. You get a spud for this bowl over here too. Make it look nice. Then we kind of want to serve this with rice. So I was in the store and I seen white rice and I got it. And then alongside of it was a little box of Zatarain's dirty rice. And it had peppers in it and Cajun spices. So I mixed the two of them together. So we're going to serve this with a little bowl of rice in between me and Sheila when we're sitting there at the table. And here's something else I'm going to do. I'm going to sprinkle a little of this rice right in our broth all the way around. So when you taste a little bit of that, you'll be tempted to grab a little bit more rice out of that bowl and kind of mix it in as you want it, you know. Looky there. One more little dab over here. And I think we have knocked this out of the park. I could not be happier. Of course, this little spoon is Sheila's, and this bigger spoon is mine. Let me get them at an angle of the dangle so they look pretty. What do you think, Sheila? How we doing?
Here's one other one.
Is there one more little crumb over there hiding? Oh, he's hiding over here. She's my little director, so if she sees something that doesn't look too handy-dandy or it's sitting out there in the open, she'll say, grab that piece of something, throw it out of the way. But I think we're ready.
And
to
On
enjoy.
the rice.
Yeah, what about it?
On the rice.
On the rice?
Yeah.
What about it?
The bowl of rice.
Oh, here? Is there,
Yeah. Now, there you
oh,
go.
was there a little piece of pepper on top that was
Yeah,
bugging you?
something was
But it
bugging
looked
me.
like a little cockroach or something? No, it wasn't. It's a pepper.
It's bugging me.
Was bugging you? Okay.
All right.
How about now?
Pretty.
Looks great. Let me get just a little more broth out of that cooker and drizzle on top this rice. I was goofing around when the camera's off for a second. I even put a few veggies on top of that rice to soak down in there as well. Man, I told you at the very beginning that I've never cooked this stuff. I've never ate it. But if I was going to do it, I'd do it like this. So I did it like this. Now you can do this recipe, the entire recipe, change up your veggies, change up your seasonings, do it in the oven. And if you don't have a smoker, I was just goofing around putting in my little smoker out there having some fun. But boy, I'll tell you what, I hope you enjoyed this recipe because I enjoyed making it for you. We really hope you subscribe to our channel. In just a second, little Shotgun Red's face is going to pop up over here. When it does, if you click on that, you can subscribe. You'll see the word subscribe, and there'll be a little bell there. If you click on that bell, that'll notify you every time we come out with a new recipe, and we really hope you do that. Over here, we'll put up another recipe that we really hope you enjoy. And most of all, is this the best oxtail stew over dirty rice you ever tried in your entire life? If it ain't, it ought to be. You thought I was going to forget, didn't you? Parsley. Just a little parsley on top here to make it real pretty. You know why? Because I'm going to share some with Sheila. And she deserves to have beautiful oxtail stew. I almost said oxtail, but it's oxtail. Did you enjoy the recipe, Sheila?
Yes, I did.
Man, I'm telling you what, I can't wait to try this because I never have. Never cooked it either, but I hope I did okay. All that stuff. Share it with all your friends. Give us a thumbs up. Like it, everything. See you next time right here on Cooking with Shotgun Red. Let's get started, Sheila.